Hi, everyone. Dr. Madeline Stiers here. Today I'm sharing a special episode where I sat down with co-hosts Reverend Wesley Arning and St. Martin's parishioner Ryan Presley on the Wayside Podcast to talk about the recent flooding in Texas. We discussed trauma, how to support your kids after such events, and how God can help us hold the tension so many are feeling right now. I'm glad you're here with us. Take a listen and be sure to check out their podcast, the Wayside Podcast.
Well, today we have a guest who only had to walk about 20 yards, maybe, from where we record in the Student Life Center. But we have today Dr. Maddie Stiers with us, who is the Chief Clinical Officer at the Hope and Healing Center, which is on our campus. And just what a gift that you all are to our community, but especially now with everything that we're experiencing with the floods in the Hill Country. So thanks for joining us, Maddie.
Absolutely. I'm sad that this is how we're getting here. I'm glad to be able to be here and support y'all.
For sure.
Oh, thank you.
So this is a heavy subject that clergy and parishioners are talking about, wrestling with, and especially on my end, I'm getting a lot of parents going, okay, how do I talk to my kids about this? What are they experiencing? There's just a lot of questions that people are having, especially when talking to little ones and stuff like that. So help us a little bit with what trauma does to people and what it may do to little ones and teenagers as well. That may be a good place to start.
Yeah. So thank you for that wonderful introduction. Just for some of you listeners out there, I work at the Hope and Healing Center, and we are a faith-based mental health nonprofit. We offer direct services and care, and we also do training and education. And I am a trauma therapist and researcher. So I'm hoping that some of the information today will be really helpful for those parents that are out there really reeling after this event. But if you need more information or more support, please feel free to reach out. And I think you'll have the information in the podcast episode. So trauma is a word that we hear a lot in media, in the news, just all the time. I think it's a very common word that we hear nowadays, whereas 10, 20 years ago, we weren't hearing that. But we typically think of trauma as interpersonal trauma or abuse or violence that two people or multiple people have against one another. What we don't hear as much about is what we do in Texas, I guess, is natural disaster trauma and what that looks like. But it can have the same effects that, a violent trauma can have between people. So what happens with a traumatic event? So you have the trauma, which is the event that happens. And right now we're talking about, this flooding that was going on. But your body responds in a way that can have lasting effects, but it doesn't for everyone. So your sympathetic nervous system activates. And really what it does is it kind of shuts down unnecessary processing, and it activates parts of your brain and your body that are going to help you get through and survive. Your brain goes, okay, my life is in danger. I need to survive this. And so you really focus on that. We hear the term fight or flight, but freeze is also one. So a lot of people in this experience may have frozen, and that's a very common response. So if that's something that you're hearing people talk about, know that that's really common. But your brain kind of activates to help protect you and keep you safe. And then what is supposed to happen is after the event's over is your parasympathetic nervous system reactivates and you kind of calm down. And so hours, days after the event, sometimes just minutes, you'll have this kind of first you have the adrenaline rush that floods your system, helps keep you alive, helps you get into activation mode. And then afterwards, that adrenaline kind of rushes out of your body. And that's when you see people start to shake. They may get really lightheaded. They may have a really hard time kind of talking or processing what's happening. They may not be remembering things. If you're asking questions and they meet it aftermath, they're like, I don't know. And then your body and brain start to work back towards kind of a homeostasis, get back to normal. But there's lasting effects of that huge rush of your brain and your body responding. And so people who were in this event, people who were in the thick of it, people who are responding to it now, people who are on the front lines, either offering support, doing rescue, or who were in it, may experience any or all of this. What you want to, and I'll talk a little bit more about like the details and the symptoms and what kind of happens, but what you want to be on the lookout for is, well, first know that some of these behaviors or symptoms are very common. So what I'm going to talk about, if you or your kids are experiencing this, it is not abnormal. It is a way that your brain is making sense of this event, this extremely devastating event that doesn't happen to us every day. If you see some of these things start to linger after a month or two, then you definitely want to say, okay, this is lasting a bit longer. Let's talk about getting them in to talk with a mental health care professional who is trained on how to navigate and help mitigate some of this to prevent long-term effects on their mental health. So with adults, and interrupt me if you guys have questions, just start throwing things at me. With adults, after a traumatic event, oftentimes they want to talk about it. They with safe people, and I would encourage that, right? Like find a pastor, a priest, a therapist, your family, friends that you trust to share about how you're feeling. They may or may not want to talk about the events in details. It may that they later on have more emotional bandwidth to talk about it, but that's really common what we see in adults. And so some adults don't want to talk about it too. So distracting yourself is also very common. But that's what we think about. I think this is what makes this situation unique in that a lot of people will anticipate that the children may be responding the same way or should respond the same way that adults would, that you would. And you're going, okay, I need my kids to talk about this. I need them to talk. I need them to process because it's all in good intention. You want them to feel good. You want them to be able to move through this and come out on the other end, not severely distressed by it. Mm-hmm. But the reality is that kids process trauma extremely different than adults do. If you just think about the emotional and cognitive abilities that as adults should have, the language that we have, we know how to talk about the difference between grief and sadness. Like we kind of understand those two differences, even though they're both under the same umbrella of kind of sadness. Like loneliness is also a form of sadness. Kids don't understand those kind of unique emotional, some do, but not all, right? That's something that you learn as you grow and unfortunately experience things. So helping your child process through this is going to look different. What their behaviors, what they're saying, what they're doing may look very different. It may be distressing for you as a parent to see. And just know that if it's happening, it doesn't mean that your child is going to be extremely messed up because of this event, right? It's a normal processing. It's them moving through this.
Yeah. I think that's that's really helpful, Madeline, because my daughter lost a friend and a classmate through this event, and we have a close family friend who herself is a clinical psychologist, and before we told her, we talked with her, and she just underscored what you just said, which I think we don't think about sometimes is we expect children to maybe process things in ways that are similar to us. And then we respond to how they're processing and make a value judgment about how it's going, right? Our worst fear is that they're going to just be wrecked by it, right? But she mentioned something that I think is really helpful is they might not be by your interpretation of what that would look like. And I think we kind of, in this week have kind of somewhat experienced that with our own daughter where things seem fine and then they don't, and then they seem fine again. And as an adult, as a grown person, you're thinking, is that normal for my child? Like, do they have empathy if they're not, if they're not feeling the level of like sorrow I'm feeling right now? And I think that's just really important to underscore, because I think the misalignment of expectations we should as adults be on the lookout, not only for those where we're worried about the kids who are really like clearly racked in a way that we identify with, but also those who may seem a little detached from it. But that doesn't mean that something is wrong with them or that they aren't processing this in a way that is appropriate.
Yeah, absolutely. Humans are just innately resilient. I mean, in my line of work and y'all's, you hear and see things that people have been through and you're going, wow, like the fact that you're still hopeful and still can feel, joy is sometimes I'm like beyond me. But yeah, I think parents are going to be looking at their kids and saying like, okay, they should either be extremely grieving and processing this the way I would, right? Like this extreme overwhelming emotion. Or I want them to totally be fine and just get through it and quote, get over it, because I don't want them to deal with this distress. And really it's going to take time. And what you just said is absolutely normal and healthy for kids to have moments, and adults to have moments where it's overwhelming and they're trying to process it and they're feeling all the feels, all the hard stuff. And then moments where they're going to go, I want to go play outside. Like, can we go ride a bike? And you're like, wow, like 5 minutes ago, you were just really reeling from this. And that's them processing it. When you start to see after weeks and months, kids and adults sitting in that grief, and they're not able to go about some of the normal daily, that's when you say, okay, like what's going on? Like, we want to get them some support, but kind of fluctuating between the two is absolutely normal. And not everyone who experiences a traumatic event, so not everyone who was at one of these camps or is a first responder or is on the front lines is going to have the same response. Some people will not have a trauma response from this. It impacts everyone differently. For example, you can think about Harvey, like people who the whole community here is affected by that. Many people were flooded, and some people have big, strong trauma responses from that. And some people go, yeah, I mean, it's terrible. And then they rebuild their house and they're not experiencing the negative psychological response. So it's just going to look different. I think the key thing is to pay attention. And if you're noticing things going on with your kids, your loved ones that are abnormal, know that that's normal, and keep paying attention to it, how the frequency, how often it's lasting, how long the duration is, and then seek help if, and we're here. I mean, the Hope and Healing Center is literally on campus. We have a whole system set up to help support people specifically for this. So if you know what you need, call us. If you don't know what you need, call us.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll help flesh that out.
And so what I'm hearing is, especially when it comes to kids, but everyone, it's going to be a little bit different. What are some signs, though, that parents could expect to see in these coming weeks from their kids, or already kind of?
Yeah. So some of the not normal, but some of the, I think, anticipated signs are sadness, grief. I miss my friend. I don't know, why did this happen? You're going to hear a lot of, especially for the children who were there and the adults that were there, why wasn't I impacted by this? Why did I lose my friend and I get to come home? If a child was lost and they had a sibling, you're likely to hear that as well. And those are all normal responses. It's oftentimes called survivor's guilt. And helping them process through that is going to be helpful, and I'll talk about that. But with kids, again, we want them to talk. We're like, talk about it. But really helping them find a way that's going to help, that's going to be beneficial for them to process it. They don't have the words, they don't have the emotional language or the cognitive ability necessarily to kind of process it the way we would. They're going to likely act out and play, right? So you'll see littles, preschool, because they're seeing it on the news, they're going to hear about it, parents talking about it. So if you can limit that exposure, do the best you can with that. But they're going to draw about it. So you may see some drawings that are going to be a little shocking. And again, normal. That's how they process. So encouraging that is helpful. But they may be drawing out things that they've seen or heard. It may be somewhat bizarre or not even very aligned with what's actually happened, but it's how their little brains are processing what's going on. So they may just be drawing about death that's not related. Again, very normal. You may see regression in kids at all different ages. So younger kids may stop speaking. They may have a hard time just kind of getting any words out about anything. Again, a normal processing. They may not want to talk to you about it. They may be acting totally fine. Their behaviors may change. So like teenagers may start acting like regressing towards like preteen or younger ages, and where they weren't playing with dolls or stuffed animals and acting things out. You can see the younger play. You may see that in your teens or preteens again. Again, that's helping them process through some of this. littles may start acting like babies again. I mean, kind of like mom hold me, dad hold me all the time. Like, I need to be cared for. And it's overwhelming and scary as a parent because you're going, oh my gosh, this is such an extreme response.
Yeah.
And we have to remember that that's how their brain is helping them process through.
I know of, folks now whose like kids are sleeping in the bed with them because it's been, thank God, raining here, like for in a good way, but like it rains and it rains hard here. Like, does that mean we're going to be okay? So that really resonates. I think that like an important through line, and it's so hard to do in these moments where like you're trying to show up and support while trying to get through yourself, right? Is just this idea that like, if behavior is an expression of need and it's an expression of like what they're going through, trying to be less reactive to it, even in ways where we think like the reactivity isn't like negative, because not all reactions inherently negative, right? Like a perfect example of what you're just saying is with my daughter, like I saw her like in her like little yearbook and she was like doodling on the page like with her picture. And I saw it and it was kind of striking because it's like, why are you drawing on her picture? Like it just seemed kind of like
you wouldn't do that as an adult.
I wouldn't do it as an adult.
Right.
And I think it's so important for us to like catch ourselves in that moment being like shocked by like, I wouldn't react like that. And yet they are reacting like this, like that. It's just different.
Yeah.
And I think there could be a moment where like you would like say like don't do that or stop or like we want to honor this person, blah blah, like and that's not the intent at all that's happening. That's not where that's coming from. That's where my assumption is that's coming from. And it just there's this, we in this moment, like trauma just like throws cognitive dissonance at us just like hell. And I think just trying to stay even keel enough to not respond in a way that's going to shame or like exacerbate or set things back, like being just, I don't know, just being cognizant that like our reactions are really important right now.
Trying to respond thoughtfully as opposed to reacting thoughtlessly. And that's going to be hard because parents are going through it too. The adults are living through this. I mean, all of the terror and fear and grief that's going on. But thinking where we might say, wait, stop doing that. Like, quit it. Like, that's not okay. Instead, you can say, what's going on? Like, what are you doing? You're coloring? What are you coloring? Why? Because you might be shocked at her. Well, I'm making, I miss her and I'm making her look pretty. I'm doodling around her photo or something. And if you were to have stepped in and stopped it and not thought, why could this be happening? They might have then felt some shame of like, okay, maybe I can't share what I'm doing, or I should be hiding things.
Well, even in that moment when I walked in the room, she like shut it, and I was like, no, like what are you doing? Like like
it's wonderful.
And then I saw that, and I mean, it breaks your heart, and then and
that's, I think what you just said is extremely important. You created a space in that moment where she would have shied away and hid something, because kids are going to feel this shame, like shame of not being dead and their friend is. And they're going to not know how to process that. They don't even know the word shame or really that experience. Like this might be the first time they're experiencing it. And you said in that moment, what you're doing is okay. And so you relieved her of maybe some of that guilt or shame that she was feeling and gave her a space to do something that helped her and helped her process through that. And I don't think parents react negatively to hurt their kids. Obviously, everyone's trying their best. And so that's being thoughtful about how you're responding. And you did that in that moment, gave her a space to no, I'm safe to tell dad these things and share some of this with where she's struggling, like, because she hid it, I guess maybe it's not something I should be doing. You said, no, it's okay. This is okay. And that's really what I hope parents take from this, is that they may see behaviors or even hear their kids saying things that might seem like really outlandish in the aftermath of this. And instead of becoming angry or upset or making them feel bad about it, giving them a safe space to process it and share those emotions. So here's some things that parents can do. And you have to find language that's going to be age appropriate, but be honest about the situation. That means sitting down with your adult parents and partners and figuring out what are we going to say, how are we going to share this information if it's not already been shared, and be honest about what happened, because they're going to hear about it, and hearing about it from someone who is a safe space is going to be best, because they might hear about it. You don't want the first time that they hear about the death of someone or this devastation to be in a negative frame from someone that they don't know, right? Because then it becomes more scary. So be honest about what happened, talk about what happened, validate their feelings, put words to their feelings if they don't have those yet, words that are age appropriate. So guilt and shame are appropriate for older kids. Sadness is a good one for littles because they know what sadness is, and relating it to situations that they can comprehend. That might seem a little bit insensitive or dismissive, but if you lose something that you really cared about, you remember you left your stuffed animal on an airplane one time and how sad you were, that might be what you're feeling now with your friends being gone, or because they can go, I do remember that emotion, and connect it to this, and you can say, and we can get through this. So once you're talking about emotions and helping them process that, reassuring their safety. They're safe right now. They're at home. That you're the parents and the adults are doing things to protect them. Verbalize that to them, because littles may not recognize that. They didn't have the cognitive ability to fully understand what happened necessarily. We can get online and Google what happened. If we don't know how a flash flood occurs, we can go, how does the flash flood occur, right? And Google that and understand it. If you're just waking up in the middle of the night and this water's rushing around you and you're going, what happened? That's going to be really hard for them to understand. And can it happen again? Is this going to happen again? So reassuring that you and all of the adults are doing things to keep them safe. The adults are handling it. If your kids were there or have been there or experienced something like this, you don't have to worry about that. The adults are worrying about that. And you're safe. You're physically safe. You're here, and we will make sure that you're safe. Encouraging them to ask questions and express what they're feeling. And what in your situation, saying what are you doing? What's going on? If they're trying to hide something, encourage them to share that with you. If they don't have questions, let them know. If you ever do have questions, I'm here to listen. I may not have the answers, but I'm always going to do my best to help answer them or find the answers or just listen. So encourage that open line of communication. As we kind of move through these next few days and weeks, you can encourage them to find ways that they may want to help. That may look like I've seen lemonade stands going up to help raise money. Do you want to draw a picture of your friends? Do you want to write cards to some of the people who are out helping? Finding ways that they can do things to feel productive, empowering them in this situation, because in the aftermath of a trauma, people oftentimes feel powerless, right? It's just devastation. And so saying, here's a way that you can help. Here's a way that you can take back some of that control. As humans, we want to have control. Kids do too. So empowering them in ways to do that, I think is wonderful. Limit discussions about the graphics of it. For older kids, limit social media and news exposure. It's all everywhere right now. And I even know for me yesterday, I think I said this when I was talking to y'all, I went, I had to get off social media. It was just, I was being inundated with images and pictures. And someone who works in trauma, I was like, this is too much for me as an adult. I had to put it away for a day. And then I left and I went for a little run and then took care of myself. And so limiting the exposure to that. And when you think your kids aren't listening, they're listening. Even the little ones that may not know exactly what you're talking about. They're feeling the tension. They're feeling the energy. So saving those conversations for after they're out of the room in a space that is really just for the adults.
Maddie, you've talked about the role of shame in all of this, and also fear, the trauma that there's such a fear in thinking about the kids, but also the parents and how we're reacting to it, that there's just a lot of processing happening for kids, thinking about how the fear of a flood may continue with rainstorms, but it may move right into some other kind of fear that doesn't make any logical sense for us. But then for parents and those of us who haven't been directly affected, to go, well, that could have been my kid, and how we transfer the role of fear in paralyzing us as well is just a huge one.
Yeah. Adults taking care of yourself is really important. Like, you're not going to be able to care for your kid if you're not paying attention to how you're responding to this, because this is heavily impacting everyone. And if your body is responding and you're kind of reacting instead of responding, pay attention to yourself, pay attention to your kids, be very mindful as these next few days go through. And one of the things that you just mentioned, I'm going back to some of the symptoms, is we might think, oh, they're going to be afraid of the rain. Oh, they're going to be afraid of water, right? There's some common links there, right? That make sense to us as adults. And that may happen. And in Houston, it rains a lot. And it was raining yesterday. And, like you said, you might have kids wanting to sleep with you and whatnot. But you can also see that fear coming out in ways that it doesn't make sense to us as an adult. Like, now they're afraid of something in the house, like, they don't want to go do X, Y, and Z. And you're like, what does that have to do? Like, I don't understand how that fear came about following this. But really, it's your body is responding. Your brain's trying to process it. And so things that may not make sense are now being looped into this kind of cycle of fear and trauma. And that's how that those kind of seemingly unrelated fears can happen. So if you see that happening too, I mean, that's not uncommon also. I think for parents to remember. So walk through some of those things that you can do to help support your kid. All of those things you can do for adults as well. I mean, they're just great ways to really to offer that support. Know that it will take time. It's going to take time. There's no quick fix to this. As much as we want to just say, here, sit down, talk to this person, and you're better now. That may not be the case. For some people, sitting down and talking to someone once is going to help them and they'll feel better, and that is all that they needed. For some people, they'll need a little bit more support and time, and being generous with your grace and patience is really going to be instrumental through this. And then taking care of yourself so you can better take care of those around you.
Because I do think that's the stress for a lot of our parents is, okay, what do I do? Like, what is it that I need to do to get my kid back on the right track after this trauma? And it's going to come up when the school year starts again. I mean, we're driving through the neighborhoods. There are green ribbons on a lot of trees. I mean, so it's, as you're saying, it's not going to be a quick fix, and that's okay.
Yeah. And when school starts, again, the conversations will happen, and there may be points in the next year, holidays, birthdays, where it's going to flare up. And so being prepared for that and finding ways to help them, like empower them. Like, do you want to write a letter to them and we can do something with that? And the schools will likely have something in place for that as well. But just being prepared for that, because, we want to think, okay, it's been 3 months, my kid's going back to school, things are good. And then we forget that life events happen and reminders come up. There are people too, kids, they have memories. And so being prepared for that, I think, is important. And then talking about God and what this looks like. With trauma, I hear a lot, why does God let bad things happen to good people, to innocent people? And figuring out how you want to answer that question. And this is, some people find resolve and comfort in this, but some people it can be really unhelpful for, is, everything happens for a reason. And some people believe that, and that's great. And if they're saying that, that's a helpful comment for them. If you say that to someone and that's not their belief, they're going to say, okay, well, why is my child gone? Then tell me the answer. And you've just stuck your foot in your mouth.
Yeah.
And that's where we're trying to do our best sometimes, of especially someone who has experienced this, of trying to say something that will be comforting. And that's where, it's, Lord, help me with what I need to say. and shut me up when I need to stop talking, because we're trying to create meaning out of something that is chaos. And we are looking for who to blame. I mean, there's just all these things we're trying to create meaning. And this is the hard thing as humans, of we are so out of control of this situation. And where the fear may then reckon with us, not only our kids, but there is so little in our life that we are in control of. And that is so discomforting that at any moment we could be gone. Our loved ones could be gone. And that there's a trauma in and of itself. But this desire of wanting to say, well, there's got to be a reason this happened. And at least for me as a priest, I just don't, God's not up there going, I'm going to zap this person today. I'm going to have this person in a multi-car crash. Like, that's not the God that we believe in.
Right.
And that ultimately the Lord is our good shepherd, that he is there with us in these moments. And as we talked about on our crucifixion series time and again, of what Jesus came to do through the incarnation, through the crucifixion. And I talked about it in my sermon in Riverway this past Sunday. For some reason, I've been thinking about the Virgin Mary and the sorrow of her being not in control of her son being on the cross. And so this is all taken into the story of God, and that he has redeemed it all somehow, some way, but that he is not an angry God just getting us, that he is there ready to welcome us with open arms when we die, but he is not up there saying, okay, I think today's so-and-so's day.
Right.
And I think that, there's a great diversity of thought, obviously, even within the Christian tradition, as to those who would say, callously, all things happen for a reason. I mean, we did a whole Sunday school series on, things that we say that aren't actually in the Bible.
Yeah.
And that's definitely one of them. I think that as Episcopalians, as Anglicans, we do a really good job of, let me back up. We have the potential to do a better job maybe than some of sitting in the incredibly uncomfortable tension of what tragedy and death is a tragedy. That's that death is a tragedy. Any death. I want to talk about funerals and like communal processing, especially with kids in a second. But I think for me, one of the most useful, our prayer book is full of just useful language, right? The prayer book is the Bible. So much of the language of our prayers is from Scripture, but then there are also just some other bits in there that kind of give a sense of like theologically where we stand on some things as Anglicans. And kind of after the burial rites, there's a little section. Kind of, it's in italics. It's like notes for those paying attention. And I want to read it because I think that it actually speaks to that tension that will never be comfortable, but that I think we are called as Christians, because incarnationally, this is what Christ did. He came to sit in that tension and to show us the way through it. So I'm going to read it. So it talks about when we do burial services, this is why we do what we do. The liturgy for the dead is an Easter liturgy. It finds all its meaning in the resurrection. Because Jesus was raised from the dead, we too shall be raised from the dead. The liturgy, therefore, is characterized by joy, in the certainty that, quote, neither death nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor things present, nor things to come, nor powers, nor height, nor depth, nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of God in Christ Jesus our Lord. You could stop there and you could say everything happens for a reason, but it doesn't stop there. It goes on. This joy, however, does not make human grief unchristian. That's just a powerful statement. Like, thank God for whomever inserted this. I don't know, subsequent councils or Cranmer, whomever. The very love we have for each other in Christ brings deep sorrow when we are parted by death. Jesus himself wept at the grave of his friend. So while we rejoice that one we love has entered into the nearer presence of our Lord, we sorrow and sympathy with those who mourn. And I think that just, when we feel like, I personally, when I feel like I'm being pulled, I mean, my natural inclination is to be pulled more towards the side of sorrow than it is to joy, as a general rule, as it relates to these things. I think this pulls me back into the tension that is, it is the crux of the cross. It's the crux of that which redeems us somehow. This tragic story that is like our human condition is somehow redeemed, and we that gives us hope. And yet, like we still live in this present age.
I mean, I think that's the tension that you're talking about, and that we're going to experience through the funerals and through just the process of the months and years to come. Is we know deep in our bones there's more to life than this. There's something more, and yet I'm really, really sad right now. Mm-hmm. And both of those things can be true.
Yeah, that tension. As humans, we shy away from it. Mm-hmm. Right? We go, that's uncomfortable. I don't know what is that.
Our culture actively works against it. Yeah. Like it is at battle constantly.
Yeah. I mean, even just anxiety is why you see substance use. I mean, people are like, I don't want to feel that. And so they check out, right? Being okay, not being okay, being in that discomfort is what will get you through it. Through funerals, through this whole situation, acknowledging I am so uncomfortable right now. If you're counseling someone or sitting with someone and they're grieving and they're just inconsolable and you're going, I have no idea what to say to this person. I'm so uncomfortable. Like you just get this like urge to run away. No, that's normal and sit in it. And you don't have to say anything. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes just being present. Social support is huge in the aftermath of trauma, just being present, asking people what they need. You know, they may not know, but instead of assuming, mm-hmm. you know, you can say, what do you need from me right now? Can I do this? Can I do that? And then saying, oh, we can come back to it if you don't know.
And that's same true for kids, right?
Absolutely.
That if they want to be sad in this moment, to sit with them. If they want to be happy, then how to because it's the same kind of principle, right?
Yeah, be present.
To be present
there.
In that moment.
And as the adults, the burden falls on us to be uncomfortable and manage through our own discomfort in order to support our children. That doesn't mean you have to do it alone and quiet and secret. Share with other adults and process through that. But be uncomfortable. And I think everyone goes, what do I say? Like, I don't want to say the wrong thing. Like you mentioned that. How do I counsel these people? And so finding, you know, sharing, like, you know, at some point saying like, I have these memories of this person. Do you want to hear them? Asking for permission to talk about that because they may not be ready. And if you do slip up and you say something and someone gets mad at you or upset, did you do it intentionally to hurt them? No. So what do we do when we hurt people and we don't mean to? We apologize. You say, that was so insensitive. I'm so sorry. Yeah. And just own up to it. You know, I've done it as a therapist in session. Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, that came off wrong. Like, I'm so sorry. You know, you just be honest, like through this whole thing, be honest in how you're talking about it and your intention. And if you mess up, apologize. That knowing that you give yourself permission to not have the answers for everything and give yourself permission to mess up and then correct.
And that's really, I've talked to some people who know the families that have been directly affected mm-hmm. and have lost someone. And there is the struggle of, I don't know what to say. I don't want to bother them. I'm also close to them. And not knowing, I mean, every couple's different. Do you have any just tips for well-intentioned people who know the folks, like, what do you do? And not just today, but in the days ahead?
Yeah, I think you have people who it's their personality just immediately to reach out and like kind of insert themselves and they're the doers, mm-hmm. right? And then you have people who go, okay, I really care, but I also know I might not want to be bothered. How do I handle this? I want to say something, but I don't want to be too invasive. say something and let them, in the immediate aftermath, right? Like let them kind of dictate how that goes about. So you don't have to call them with these like renowned words, right? You can just send a text or leave a voice message to say, I love you.
Yeah.
This is horrible and I'm thinking about you. And if you need something, call me. I'll check in a week or so.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just as simple as that. And they can ignore you and don't take it personally, or they can reach out when they need something. But check in periodically. Obviously, don't overdo it. But just something very simple like that. And then you kind of leave it to them to see what they need. Because these families are going to have people rallying around them so much.
Yeah.
And they're going to be so overwhelmed. So I think that's a great place to start.
And I've told some folks that in this moment, they are being rallied around.
Mm-hmm.
For you as a friend, things are going to calm down. People are going to go back to their routines. And it's in that moment, in the months ahead, when it gets quiet, that you can really be present to them. You know, another tension, again, well-intentioned, is saying, let me know what I can do for you. And it's like, okay, this person is mourning, and now I've put the burden on them to tell, well, we actually would like dinner on Thursday. Do you mind bringing that over? Like,
I don't have my full schedule lined up. Yeah.
So how do we, the check-in, but also not dumping it on them now to reach out to us of how they need to be cared for?
Yeah, I think in the beginning, if you don't have any specific way that you can benefit them in a way that makes their life easier, right? Like if you're inclined to say like, let me know if you need something because you don't know what they might need, then hold off until things get quiet, and then just be intentional and say, I'm coming over with dinner on Thursday. And they can say, no, Thursday doesn't work. You go, okay, it's Friday. And, but when things get quieter, the being able to kind of sit down and think, what can I do to help this person without making them think about it is really helpful. And if you don't know, just wait until you know what you can do. And sometimes that's just being present. If you see them at church, you just walk up and give them a hug. You don't even have to say anything.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it's just your physical presence in a space that they're at and just acknowledging, I see you.
I want to just kind of circle back to, we've talked a lot about conversations which may be done with like, your spouse, your partner, the other adults that are kind of working with either like a young person or a child. But can we talk a little bit about like the role of, or how you think about, how we should be thinking about like communal processing? I think, funerals are going to happen. And as a parent, I don't, part of me says like, yes, I want my daughter to come. But I don't know. What's the role of communal processing? I want to be at the funeral, but I'm a 40-year-old man who wants to be there. Like, am I projecting that sentiment onto an 8-year-old? Is that appropriate? Like, how would you, with someone with similar questions, how would you help them unwind all that mess?
I think it's going to be specific for each child. And then across the ages, it might look different. So you have to think about, where's my child developmentally? Is this going to be more distressing for them? Or less distressing? Like, what is the funeral going to look like? Am I going to come unwound? That might really impact them. And so for some younger kids, you're going to have to make that decision, what's best. If they're expressing, you can take that, like what they want to do, you can take that into consideration. But ultimately, if you're like, we need to go, I don't think my 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old should be there. I think this might be a bit overwhelming for them. Like, there's already this sadness that we're processing through and talking about, and to put them in a room full of people crying might be a little overwhelming. It's okay to not take them. And if you decide like, no, they want to go, they know these people, that's okay too. For the older children, asking them, what do you want to do? And them not wanting to go is not a sign that they don't care, that they're callous, that they're like, I don't really know. they're not ready. They are like, no. I've been to funerals when I was in high school, and it was some of them I was ready for, and some of them I was like, oh, I probably shouldn't have gone to that one. So they'll know what they want to do, and just allowing them that space. And if they don't know, well, what do you think? What do you think it's going to be like? Talk through. What do you think that will look like? What are you nervous about happening? What do you think the benefits of you going would? Do you think you'll feel better? Or do you think it's going to make you feel worse? Because they might just be going, I have no idea, especially if this is their first funeral. So what does that look like? What's going to happen? Giving them information of like what a typical funeral looks like, and process, so they can go, okay, and make a fully informed decision. Now the littles, again, they're not going to be able to process that. But the older ones, yeah. I mean, if they don't know, give them that information and talk with them through making that decision.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you.
Well, we've covered a lot, but y'all have a lot of resources that you're going to be available for the long haul. So tell us a little bit about how folks can connect with y'all and what y'all offer.
Yeah, so we have so many resources. Where to start? I think the easiest thing right now, instead of me going into all the details, is to just say, call us. We're on the campus of the church. If you know what you need, call us. If you don't know what you need, call us. We've set up our team is ready to support the community in the parish. So when you call in, whoever you reach will ask, and you're calling looking for resources, and is this related to the July 4th flooding? And if it is, we've rerouted our internal workings to get you to the right people. We have several people on staff who work specifically with grief. We have a huge network of resources, but we've compiled a specific list for parents who might be looking for therapists for all different ages. We have several community partners who have extended times and hours. At the Hope and Healing Center and Institute, we can sit down with parents, we can sit down with adults, we can sit down with young teens and help process through that. We don't have child therapists, we don't have play therapists, so we will definitely get them connected with our community members that we've talked about. We have a whole lot of other resources too. What we'll do is we'll talk to you on the phone, we'll get some information, and we'll help determine if we've got something right here on site that can help and get you in to do that, or we'll help connect you with the community. But yeah, if you don't know, if you do know, give us a call. During the day, you can call the main line. It's 713-871-1004. And in the evenings from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m., you can call the Hope line, which is a peer-run support line. So that's a great resource. It's free. All of our services are free. You can call it in the evening if you just need to chat with someone for 30 minutes, get some support. You can get some resources there too. But that number is 831-7337, and we'll put these in the show notes.
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll put them there.
And then we have, I'd say, I'm sure the church and the center will put the information out as we've got more resources coming. So keep an eye out for just additional stuff that we'll be doing to offer some support.
So what I'm hearing is that y'all are available.
We are.
That it's free.
Yep.
And that these resources are not only for you, but especially for folks who you're connected to who are struggling, who may or may not go to church, whatever, that this would be a great resource just to have in your back pocket to
Absolutely.
be able to share with those in the community.
Yep. Great summary.
But really, y'all have been just a tremendous resource to this community for years. And here y'all are stepping up to the plate again. And so thank you for that. And for our members, don't be offended if there comes a point when talking to a clergy person, or if you call the front desk, that we say, I think the Hope and Healing Center would be a better resource. There are things that I, as priest, can be helpful in listening and reflecting and praying. But once we get to the deep end, it's time for me to hand you off to trained professionals. And so that's what y'all are here for. And this is just atypical. Not very many churches have a resource like this on campus. And so we are extremely blessed.
Yeah, I think about that sometimes. I've been here for 10 years and I go, wow, it's just like, none of the churches I grew up in had this. I'm like, this is a great resource. We were walking over to talk to y'all yesterday. I went, I was like, I feel very honored and blessed to be able to step into this with you all. all weekend I was just going, oh my gosh, we're going to be able to help them so much. And this is going to be hopefully so supportive for not just the clergy, but the church and the whole community. And that's why I do this. So I'm, glad to be here today. Happy to help. And like I said, give us a call. We're here. We're happy to support however that looks.
Thanks, Maddie.
Thank you, Maddie.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks for joining our conversation on this episode of the Madness and Grace podcast. If you found value in our discussion today, we'd love it if you'd subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode.
And if you enjoyed what you heard, please consider leaving us a rating and review. It helps others find these important conversations.
Sharing this podcast with friends and family members is also a wonderful way to extend hope to those who might be struggling with mental health concerns.
We'll be back next time with another candid conversation about madness and grace. See you then.